Witness the fight the boxing world has been waiting for on Netflix. Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford face off for the first time in their legendary careers for the Super Middleweight Championship in Las Vegas. The winner will walk away the greatest of their era. Watch Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford Saturday, September 13th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Live only on Netflix.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we're going to preview the San Francisco 49ers Week 2 matchup against the New Orleans Saints. Going to get into how much can we expect from Mac Jones, the new 49ers starting quarterback this week. How do you replace George Kittle? How can Robert Saleh's defense help lift up this ailing offense? And can San Francisco walk away with the victory and improve to 2-0, or will this be a trap game for them with all the injuries that they have on the roster? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on the audio podcasting platforms. Leave us that 5-star review, and let's dive in. Niners, Saints, Week 2 in New Orleans at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Who will come out on top? Well, I'll tell you this now. The Niners walk in 1-0. Coming off a nail-biting 17-13 NFC West divisional win over the Seattle Seahawks. Meanwhile, the Saints coming off a 20-13 loss against the Arizona Cardinals, and it was a tight one in New Orleans last week. That was nearly a win, or at least a tie, to force overtime for the Saints. And I am not taking this game lightly, and I don't think Niner fans should either. I think that at this point in time, knowing you're not going to have Brock Purdy, knowing you're not going to have George Kittle, knowing you may not have Jawan Jennings, you already don't have Brandon Ayuk, and you don't have Demarcus Robinson, there is every reason on the table now for the Saints to believe they have your number. That this is their week to, after a grueling near tie / maybe overtime forcing effort against the Cardinals, that you don't have your quarterback. You don't have your all-pro tight end. You don't have your offense in order. We can steal a win from San Francisco this week. So I'm not taking the Saints lightly. This is a must-win game for San Francisco. Now that you know Brock Purdy, your $53 million franchise quarterback, is officially out this Sunday against the Saints. But not only that, he could potentially miss not 1 week, but up to 5 weeks, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, due to a toe injury they are classifying as a variant of turf toe, on top of the left shoulder injury he had against the Seattle Seahawks. I know there was a more positive report about Purdy's injury by GM John Lynch, calling it more so week to week than say he's out for a month, but still not great. And the question now becomes, can you survive, not just maybe 1 week, but can you survive up to 3 to 5 weeks without Brock Purdy and George Kittle? You already knew you weren't going to have DeMarcus Robinson for the first 3 games. You'll get him back Week 4 against the Jaguars. At the earliest, Ayuk may come back Week 5, but the odds are not going to see him till November. Maybe you get an improved secondary because Malik Mustafa returns by Week 5, but even then, you don't know, you hope. They are in a disastrous territory. This team won 6 games last year for a lot of reasons, injuries being one of the big ones amongst, again, a lot of other reasons. You are in, again, a disaster territory. You have played 1 game this year, and you already don't have Ayuk, Robinson, maybe not Juwan, George Kittle, your franchise quarterback, Brock Purdy. Your offensive line was terrible last week against Seattle, which is a good defense, but still the worst game for Trent Williams since 2020. Not good. Thank God Robert Saleh's back, and might give you some confidence. We'll get into it here. Now, I don't want to be too negative because the game hasn't even happened yet. And I think San Francisco can, should, and will probably win this Sunday, but you lost 11 games last year because you couldn't field a roster. You couldn't have your stars healthy. And we came into this season saying, oh God, they're finally healthy, if they can stay healthy. And that was in reference to Christian McCaffrey, who is healthy now, but again, you never know. Now Brock Purdy's not healthy. When has Brock Purdy ever had a healthy season outside of 2023, in which he was recovering from a torn UCL? I love Brock, but this is a concern. And I get it. He's a baller. He's a playmaker. He's a gamer. Sometimes you have to live with that way of, that play style, but you are paid to be healthy. And I get it. It's turf toe. It was making a play on a scramble. It's not like he is an injury-prone player, but broken ribs in year one, a shoulder injury in year one, a torn UCL leading into year two. He's healthy the entire season for the most part. Last year, the injuries, now the injuries. And look, it's not because Brock Purdy's fragile. He's not. He's a gamer. He's a dog. You want him to be your starting quarterback, but in a year in which you need him probably more than ever to lift up a young and unproven roster, now he's out for maybe a month. And you don't have Kittle. Look, again, I don't want to be too negative here. I think that now that Mac Jones is the starting quarterback for at least 1 week, maybe two, we shall see. A lot of that resides on, do you have confidence in Mac Jones? Because if you do, then you're not really worried here. It's the Saints. They're one of the worst teams in football. I think my concern for Purdy isn't really pertaining to this week. It is, you got 3. You already won 1, which was great. The win against Seattle means a heck of a lot more now. You don't have your quarterback for maybe a month or so, but you play the Cardinals week 3 and the Rams week 5. If you don't have your guys, then you're not winning those games most likely. It'll take a Herculean effort from this defense and this roster and Kyle Shanahan to win 3 of the next 4 and maybe find a way to be 3-2 by the end of 5 weeks. And it's not because I don't believe in the roster itself. This defense was awesome last week. They'll be even better this week, hopefully, against a pretty piss-poor Saints offense. But from a zoomed-out point of view, the Niners are in trouble. And again, it doesn't mean they can't come out unscathed and be, 3-2, be 4-1 after 5 weeks. They could do that. They can beat the Cardinals. They can beat the Saints. They can beat the Jaguars. The Rams game will be tough if they have Matthew Stafford, but, it's not where you want to be for a team that, again, cannot waste opportunities to win. And now that you're playing the Saints, a game on paper, and even, in reality, off the paper, you should win this game if you have Brock Purdy, if you have George Kittle, if you have the other guys that aren't currently healthy. But now that margin gets slimmer, that margin gets smaller, and any little mistake you make, where Mac Jones, he can be a nice, confident quarterback in this offense. You have Kyle Shanahan, or he can be a pumpkin. Like, the quarterback will drive this offense, and maybe the defense saves him and whatnot, but Brock Purdy last week nearly lost that game. Then he was great enough to come back and win that game. Mac Jones ain't going to do that for you. If Mac Jones throws 2 picks, you are going to lose most games you play in. So the question about Brock Purdy and Kittle, how do you live without them? Can you live without them? That then turns into, how much confidence do you have in Mac Jones? And I'm not going to say I have none, because I do think Mac Jones in this offense, with albeit less of the weapons you'd usually have, I do think Mac Jones can operate this scheme. You have Kyle Shanahan, who can hopefully make things easier for him from a play calling standpoint and game planning and schematic standpoint. You have a quarterback that his maybe most impressive skill set is pre-snap stuff, seeing defenses, understanding where things are at. There's a reason why Kyle wanted Mac in 2021 over a player like Justin Fields or Trey Lance, because Mac does have the processing, the mind, the brain to be able to fit in this offense with how complex it is and where the ball needs to be. Mac can operate Kyle Shanahan's offense, I think, at a pretty high clip. Now, it's not as high as Brock Purdy. It may be equal to or lesser than Jimmy Garoppolo, which this team was really successful with Jimmy, and sometimes he gets you in trouble. The defense was all worldly then. It's not all worldly yet. It could be, but it's week 2 of a new season with 2 new secondary starters, 3 guys on the defensive line that have played 1 career game, and a bunch of guys you love like Fred and D. Winters and Lenore and Green and Bosa and Bryce Huff and all those guys too. But you were asking, like, you're not just plugging in Mac Jones into the 2023 and 22 San Francisco 49ers. You're plugging Mac Jones into an offense that, like, the Niners aren't asking Mac Jones to win a game with Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings as his offensive weapons. They aren't asking him to win games with, a above average offensive line. They're asking him now to win games, multiple games, if Purdy's out for 2+ weeks or so, which it seems like that's the case, with Christian McCaffrey, if he's healthy, Pearsall, then Jake Tunges, maybe Juwan Jennings, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Russell Gage, and a Kendrick Bourne that hasn't been healthy for a year, essentially, which he's back now. He looks good, but again, unproven. You aren't plugging in Mac into a great team. You're plugging Mac Jones, a backup quarterback who's a failed first-round pick for a reason, that has had turnover problems in his career, to come in and now salvage maybe a month of games for you. And look, San Francisco has the easiest schedule in football. Don't waste that. That's why, to me, the pressure's turned up. I see, there is a world now where this year, for as easy as it should be, albeit it's the NFL and nothing's given to you, you can see it getting derailed really quickly. To a point where, Mac Jones is walking in, almost having to save San Francisco's season, where if things go right and he plays bad, and let's say they win on Sunday against the Saints, they're 2-0, but they lose 3 games in a row, albeit not insurmountable, those are 2 NFC West games you can't afford to lose. You're now behind the tracks. You're now behind the 8 ball, trying to climb your way above 500 again, with still having to play the Cardinals, the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Texans. It's not going to get easier. You don't get less injured as the year goes on. And I think it's smart to hold out. This is the game to hold out George Kittle. This is the game to not play Brock Purdy, if you will, but it's about the future. But let's kind of focus in on this Sunday, because we can worry about the future tomorrow after this Sunday. What matters is New Orleans, week 2. Can you get the job done on the road against the Saints? So I went on Pro Football Reference, dove into how has Mac Jones played against the Saints. Now, for further context, his 2 matchups came in 2021 as a rookie on a 10-7 Patriots team against a fairly, probably top 10 Saints defense at that time. The next one came in 2023 against, once again, although worse Saints team, still a pretty confident and competent Saints defense. So a much better Saints roster and team than they are now. That should not be removed from the conversation. This Saints team is not good. They're playing on Sunday. Those Saints teams, where Mac Jones played them, were much, much better than they are now. Yet, it doesn't change the fact that in those 2 games, he has a 47.7 passer rating, 380 total yards, 1 touchdown, and here's the kicker, 5 interceptions. 5. I get it. Better defense, different coaching staff. There is a lot of context into why there may have been struggles. If Mac Jones played this Saints defense on those Patriot teams, the outcome's probably different. And now knowing you have Kyle Shanahan, you have Ricky Pearsall, you have Christian McCaffrey, if he can stay healthy, there's reasons to believe there will be improvements. There's reasons to believe Shanahan can scheme up open players for him and make the game easier, avoid the big mistakes, and almost make Mac Jones's propensity of throwing picks and making bad decisions with the football minimal. Like, that to me is a very reasonable ask of one of the best play callers in football. I think that'll happen on Sunday against this Saints defense, but those stats can't be ignored. Again, Mac Jones struggles a lot. He turns the football over a lot. I know some fans are sitting back like season's over. It's not there yet. Again, there are a lot of questions to be had, but if you look at Mac Jones's stats as a whole, which, look, bad Patriot teams, bad Jaguars teams, a hopefully seemingly more structured Niners team this year, but Mac Jones overwhelmingly, again, turns the ball over a lot. Throughout his entire career, 54 touchdown passes. Okay, it's not bad. 44 interceptions. There's been seasons, albeit as a backup at times, where, take last year with Jacksonville, he played 10 games, 8 touchdowns, 8 picks. 2 years ago with the Patriots, 10 touchdowns, 12 picks. 3 years ago, 14 touchdowns, 11 picks. He's always been in near double-digit interceptions given up, which inherently isn't the worst thing, and I think will get cleaned up, but it does need to be noticeable that he's a backup quarterback for a reason. I think he has the arm to succeed. I think Mac Jones can operate the offense at a pretty nice level. I think Mac Jones, again, I think is a much better quarterback than, say, Spencer Rattler. However, you're not asking Mac Jones to win with a full frontal Niners attack. It's like, we got the dogs out. We got the big dogs, the all-pros out. No, it's a third-string tight end. It's maybe a good running game, but you didn't run the football well against the Seahawks. So, again.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
I am somewhat confident in Mac Jones, but that confidence is definitely teetering on. This train can go off the tracks very, very fast. I'm hoping Kyle can tighten things up, make the offense easier for him. I think he will, but I think Mac Jones, I like Mac Jones. I don't want that to be, it doesn't sound like that by the way I'm talking about it, but I really do like Mac Jones as a backup quarterback. I believe this game on Sunday in particular, they should be able to win. I think Mac Jones has the arm to win games in this offense. And with the hope that Kyle Shanahan can make his decision-making easier, those two things paired together should be able to lift San Francisco above the Saints this weekend. On the flip side, though, San Francisco's offensive line really needs to step it up. And with the lack of legitimate offensive weapons outside of Ricky Pearsall and Christian McCaffrey, that makes it hard to completely buy into this, where you're kind of sitting back like, are we getting Mac Jones, on Sunday, or are we getting McCorkle Jones on Sunday? Like, are we getting Mac Jones, national championship, smoking a cigar, beer belly out? Or are we getting the pumpkin who is scared to throw the football or take sacks? Which quarterback are we going to get on Sunday? So I'm hoping that they can figure things out with him. But I think the one big aspect you're going to miss going from Brock Purdy to Mac Jones is the mobility. We underestimate Brock Purdy's legs so much. I even said leading into last week with Larry Krueger on the preview podcast for that game that Brock Purdy's legs are going to be one of the reasons San Francisco wins that game against the Seahawks. And lo and behold, what happened? His legs were a reason they won the game against the Seahawks. His legs are able to mask what was one of the worst pass-protecting offensive lines in football last week. That cannot be understated. This Niners offensive line gave up 13 pressures last week against Seattle. Now, again, Seattle, good defense, an attacking Vic Fangio-style defense. They run quarters, they disguise blitzes, they can wreak havoc on an offensive line. That is context that is needed here. However, you have your future Hall of Fame All-Pro left tackle coming off the worst game of his career since 2020, where he allowed 6 pressures. The Seahawks don't have an edge rusher that should be able to get 6 pressures off your future Hall of Fame 36-year-old left tackle unless he's starting to slow down. Now, I hope it isn't the case. His defenders will say, and I'm one of them, that, he didn't play the entire preseason. He was rusty. Okay, week 2 against a worse Saints defense, can you protect Mac Jones? Because if this offensive line, including Trent and Ben Barch, who is also hurt currently, he'll play, but he also injured, Brendel, McKivitz, and Pooney, who wasn't great last Sunday either, if they play like they did against the Saints, in which they allowed Brock Purdy to get pressured 53% of his throws, this game is going to be a 3-point game, a 6-point. It's going to be a 1-score game. And that is not a place you want to be in on the road in New Orleans with that fan base in that arena. That is a place, it is a game where it immediately becomes we're on the rocks. The next team to score wins, the last team to score wins. You can't do that every single week. And look, this is a bad Saints team. I'm not expecting this offensive line to play that bad this Sunday. They shouldn't play that bad. If they do play that bad, we are having a whole different conversation. Mac Jones might get hurt then if they're playing that bad because Brock Purdy was able to lift up how bad the offensive line was last week. Think back. That last game-winning touchdown pass, Trent Williams gets barreled back into Purdy. He scrambles and finds a guy open, not really, but kind of open in the back of the end zone. Mac Jones ain't doing that for you. And I think Mac has the ability to be somewhat mobile, but it's more of a Tom Brady mobile, where it's like, I can give you a 2 or 3 yard scramble, slide down it, and we're done. It's not going to be Brock running to his left, spinning backwards and going to his right and finding a guy open on a broken play for 15 seconds. Mac Jones will be asked to operate in the offense. 1, 2, 3, drop back, boom. 1 read, boom. It'll be very Jimmy Garoppolo-esque for this offense with the better arm, if you will. You don't have the ability to save a piss-poor offensive line with Mac Jones as your quarterback. That is going to be a problem, where the Saints last week against the Cardinals, a mobile quarterback, mind you, who had the 5th highest offensive line passing grade last week, had 12 pressures. Now, they're not going to have Chase Young, which, is it good or bad? It's a body. It's better than what they have. Cam Jordan was also great last week. The ageless wonder out there. He has silver hair now, getting it done with the Saints. And they're not going to have their star safety, Julian Blackmon. That helps you. Their defense is banged up. That said, again, against the Cardinals, who had the 5th highest offensive line grade in football, this Saints team had 12 pressures. This Niners offensive line is not a 5th highest grade offensive line. You could be looking at 15 pressures, 16 pressures if they put on the same performance they did against Seattle. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to worry you, but I do want to make it known that this game should not be taken lightly. I have confidence in San Francisco. I love San Francisco. I'm a big San Francisco 49er fan. I think this game will be a win, but there are reasons to believe if they can phone it in, or if they do phone it in and they do struggle, the Saints will make this game tougher than it should be for the Niners this weekend. I believe a way to avoid the offensive line woes and to have Mac Jones dropping back 35 times is to find a way to establish the run. We know, Kyle, this will probably be what they try to do, which may be a great thing, maybe a bad thing, knowing Christian McCaffrey's calf injury. He said it wasn't serious and he knew he was going to play. That's great and awesome, but what does this week hold? You don't know. And the last thing you want to do is run him into the ground in the first 2 weeks of the season. He touched the football 31 times last week. I'd prefer that be down more towards 20, not 31. But without Brock Purdy, without George Kittle, the odds are it's going to be another heavy dosage of Christian McCaffrey. Okay, you have to be able to establish the run, though. San Francisco last week could not establish the run. What do the stats tell us, though? If you go to the stats, again, with having a way to establish the run, what does it also do? It opens up play action. Mac Jones is and should be a better play action quarterback than, say, or should operate the play action better in the offense than a simple drop back passing game. The illusion of we're going to run the football. If you get that open, because San Francisco last week only did 10 play action passes. If you can get the play action open, it makes the Saints' defensive job harder. Whereas Brock Purdy last week dropped back 35 times. If Mac Jones, again, becomes like Jimmy Garoppolo and can throw the football 22 times, with 15 of those, or still 10 of those being play-action passes, you're in a really good place if you're San Francisco. So finding lanes open, you have to have Brendel and Barch and Pooney open up spots on the interior defensive line to push these holes open in the lanes to run, make them wider, and get Chris McCaffrey and Brian Robinson and company lanes to run. Go to the stats again, though. Like I was saying, to alleviate the pressure off of Mac Jones, to have to, again, drop back 35 times and save this offense and play hero ball, you get CMC going, get Robinson going. The Cardinals last week, with James Conner and Trey Benson, ran for 146 yards. 106 of those were from Conner and Benson. This Saints team gave up 100-plus yards to running backs that, in my opinion, albeit I love James Conner, are not as dynamic or as good of a room as Chris McCaffrey and Brian Robinson are combined. Last week, though, here's the kicker. The Cardinals ran 12 play-action passes last week, and their offensive grade jumped from a 59.1 grade on non-play-action passes to a 75.6 grade on play-action passes. Opening up the offense via getting the running game going and establishing the run to then move to play action had a near 20-point grade jump per PFF for the Cardinals last week. If there is a key to victory, it's play action, play action, play action. You have to find a way to establish the run, alleviate pressure off of Mac Jones, and allow him and this offense and Kyle Shanahan to utilize play action to their advantage. They will find their offense open up more. They will find more efficiency and success in a play action passing game if they can establish the run, which leads to the next question. Okay, let's say you've established the run. Let's say you figured things out on the ground. You've rushed for more than 3.5 yards a carry, which last week wasn't good at all for San Francisco, but let's say you do it and you figure it out. Do you trust the offensive weapons that Mac Jones is passing to this Sunday? Do you trust Pearsall? I would say I do. I love Ricky Pearsall. Huge fan. If I were to buy a Nike rivalry jersey of a player, it'd be Ricky Pearsall. I love Slick Rick. I was a fan of him at Florida. You know, I know. During the draft process, big RP guy. Big fan. But I don't love MVS. I don't love Sky Moore. And if you don't have Juwan Jennings, it does make guarding this offense in the passing game a little bit easier. You know who they're going to. And Mac Jones, if the windows, which probably already will be, tighter to throw, knowing that only one of those guys can beat man coverage, well, again, tighter windows, bigger mistakes, right? Maybe Juwan Jennings plays. We don't know. He's day-to-day. Maybe he practices today. It is noon on Thursday, so we'll see. Hopefully he does. It'll be a big help. It'll make things easier. It'll give me more confidence in this offensive passing game that they can succeed against the Saints. Russell Gage, do you trust him? Not really. Do you trust Kendrick Bourne off of 1 day of practice? Probably 2 or 3 by the time this podcast comes out, but I mean, I like Kendrick Bourne. If you go back to Mac Jones' stats against the Saints in his career, again, 2 games, a 47.7 passer rating and 380 yards and 1 touchdown and 5 picks. 8 receptions, 140 yards and 1 touchdown went to Kendrick Bourne. Maybe there's something there. There is some chemistry. There is some familiarity with those two guys where I wouldn't be shocked if Kendrick Bourne is this team's starting slot receiver, even if Juwan plays this Sunday. Like, he is better than MVS. He's better than Gage, better than Sky Moore. I think Bourne will probably play a lot this Sunday, especially now with Mac Jones at quarterback, which we'll see how his foot looks in practice and see how he operates the offense, but that's an upgrade for you in some capacity over the depth bench guys you have currently, slotted to be your starter on Sunday if Jennings can't play and in the slot too. So maybe there's reason to believe the chemistry is there or the trust is there from Kendrick Bourne to Mac Jones. But okay, so you trust Pearsall, you trust Juwan Jennings if he plays, but if he doesn't play, you don't trust MVS, you don't trust Sky Moore, you don't trust Russell Gage, you don't really trust Jake Tunges. I like Jake Tunges, but as a tight end 3, this offense has gone from becoming the carrier of the team, has gone from becoming this star-studded, they can beat you every which way offense when they're fully healthy, to one good receiver if Juwan doesn't play, and even then, maybe a hindered Juwan Jennings, which isn't great, to a mediocre wide receiver in Kendrick Bourne if he plays, which I'm sure he will, but, still. So one good receiver you can trust, one you might be able to trust, a running game which you hope you can trust, but, wasn't great. And look, CMC factors into the passing game too, but again, I don't want him touching the football 31 times in week 2. Like, the worst possible outcome is you lose the game and Christian McCaffrey has 62 touches by week 3. That is not the place you want to be if you're the 49ers, which, sure, you can factor in Kyle Juszczyk probably being this team's quasi-tight end 1 with Farrell and Tunges mixed in, but their offense has gone from this kind of grand scape where it's like we have all these different pieces, it's a big puzzle, to like, you've gone from a 2,000-piece puzzle to like a 50-piece puzzle. And it gets simpler for the defense to scheme against. It gets easier to double cover Pearsall, to not even worry about Tunges. Where that's why it's so important to establish the run, to alleviate the need to pass the football to people like MVS and Bourne, and maybe a hurt Juwan Jennings or Russell Gage or a Sky Moore. The last thing you want to do is rely on those guys. Bad teams rely on bad players to win football games for them. That is where San Francisco's at. Aren't a bad team. They're 1-0. But they have bad players they're relying on to help them win football games, which is not where you want to be. It's a bad place. We have since learned that Braden Willis will be elevated on Sunday, so he will take George Kittle's spot on the roster. I believe San Francisco will also sign Adrian Martinez as their backup quarterback too, with Brock Purdy probably being the emergency quarterback 3, but the odds are, even if he is, probably not going to play if Jones or Martinez goes down. San Francisco worked out Mike White, didn't sign him, not sure why. He isn't great, but he has won games in a Shanahan-like offense with the Jets when they had Saleh and more guys over there. So interesting decision by them, but they're riding a thin line, which don't love that, but we're here. This is your reality. Another spot where I think San Francisco's offense probably won't be better unless they can run the football right, but the Cardinals last week were 2 for 3 against the Saints in the red zone. San Francisco was 2 for 5 against Seattle last Sunday, which, why was that? There obviously is some play clock management involved in there that maybe stemmed from wanting to milk the clock in the first half, then a missed field goal. Like, the hope is that you can make your field goals or get in the end zone more, and they should be able to against a worse defense. But worth noting that the Cardinals were 2 for 3, was it 66.66666% against the Saints defense in the red zone, so maybe a higher chance for success against the Saints this Sunday. But I do want to go to the defense, but for 1 second I want to remind you guys to use promo code 40 Niners access 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com. You can save yourself $20 off your first purchase. You may be saying, Sterling, I don't want to go see Mac Jones play. I don't want to see Jake Tunges play. Well, I'll tell you what. That's why you use the promo code, and you can save yourself $20 off your first purchase. You're getting somewhat of a discounted Niners offense the next month or so. How about a discount to go see that discounted Niners offense the next month or so? Go watch them at Levi Stadium against the Cardinals. Buy tickets for games at SoFi Stadium in Week 5 against the Rams or games against Jacksonville too. This Niners team needs the fan base traveling well for them, making their presence known. You were big against the Seahawks on Sunday in Week 1. Keep up the effort. Support this team. They're hurt. They're hindered. Help them have a home field advantage at home, but also on the road by using promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Okay, enough with the offense. A lot of concerns there. I think they're justified. Tell me down below, are you this confident in Mac Jones? Are you worried about the offense? Can they score points this Sunday against a bad Saints team? We'll see, but tell me down below. Do you buy into what Mac Jones is preaching? Do you buy into McCorkle out there uncorking the football a handful of times to his wide receivers? Do you think San Francisco can establish the football? Comment down below, and let's get into Robert Saleh's all gas, no brakes type of defense against the New Orleans Saints on Sunday. And the big question I have, the big statement I have is, if San Francisco can get to the quarterback, will it be over? Last week, the Saints allowed 11 pressures against the Cardinals defense, which the Cardinals defense is not that great. They are not going to have, or might not have, right tackle Talise Fuaga this Sunday, so you may have a backup tackle against Nick Bosa, Bryce Huff, Micah Williams, Yetur Gross-Matos, Samuel Kawanu. That is where this defense, should smell some blood. Backup tackle, they were not good by any means. You attack the right side. That to me is a spot or the left side, for this defense. I think that right there, like we saw with the Cowboys, Terrence Steele, attack. It works so well, and they are now playing a Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore offense. Same style, same offense where they should be able to find the weak spot and almost have it be the breaking point of a bad Saints offense. And same goes for the Saints defense. It's Brandon Staley, a Vic Fangio disciple who never changes anything, an offense that Kyle Shanahan knows very well. He was in the room last year with them. He may be the worst defensive coordinator in football. They can't stop the run. They were terrible at it. They'll be terrible at it. So maybe that'll be a chance. So Brandon Staley against Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh against Kellen Moore's offense. But okay, you think that young quarterback Spencer Rattler, how do you rattle, no pun intended, a young quarterback? You blitz, right? How do you overwhelm an offensive line that was pretty good against the Cardinals defense, albeit not great against a mediocre Cardinals defense? Like, good pass blocking, bad run blocking offensive line last week for the Saints against the Cardinals. This Sunday, you would think, we'll blitz. We'll rattle him. We'll give him all these different looks. We'll bring safety blitzes and corner blitzes. We'll bring linebacker blitzes. We'll use stunts and all these things, and those things will happen. However, looking at the stats against the Cardinals, which do not have the personnel San Francisco has, mind you, Spencer Rattler is the first more mobile-like quarterback they'll face this week or this season. Darnold was kind of that, but Rattler is more of that, albeit under pressure a lot more probably than Darnold in most games. But Rattler in week 1 was a much better passer when blitzed than when not blitzed. He completed 7 out of 10 passes last Sunday when blitzed for 60 yards, and his passing grade rose to 84 per PFF. So you almost don't want to blitz Spencer Rattler. Like, you may almost tell Saleh, hey, I get it. You want to get in his cage early and make him freaked out, rattle his eyes, make him feel pressure when it's not there. Let him see some ghosts, if you will. It almost might be better if Robert Saleh says, hey boys, look, let's this Sunday pin our ears back and let's just go get him. Like, I don't think that blitzing Rattler, although you will do it sometimes to generate some pressure if you can't, because again, the Saints had a pretty good passing offensive line last week, but I think at least early in the game, allowing your defensive line to see if they can get home, that to me is what you do. If you can get home, Rattler becomes an entirely different quarterback. He is somebody that over his entire career, in 8 games, I think 7 as a starter, he's never won a football game. He is 0-7 as a starter. He's not a winner. I think Rattler's actually an okay quarterback, but bottom end of the spectrum by far, but he will give the ball away at least once. 9 turnovers, 5 picks, 4 fumbles for loss in 8 games. He will give your defense a chance to take over a game, get the ball back. Okay? How do you go about that? Do you blitz? Probably not. Do you let your guys go out there and see if they can win 1v1, do some stunts, and let your defense cover up an offense that really doesn't have a lot of weapons? Chris Olave is there. I think he's a good player, but there's injury history, and my assumption is Lenore and Green should be able to overmatch Chris Olave. Rashid Shaheed is certainly a problem. He can get downfield deep, and this may be a Sunday in which, while the Seattle Seahawks couldn't throw the football deep, Rattler will try. The Saints could try to beat whether it's Marquise Siegel and Pinnock deep. I can see that being an attempt early. See if you can catch a rather young defense, mainly in the secondary, napping early in a game. The Seahawks in previous years always tried that. They couldn't do it on Sunday, but or in week 1. But I can see the Saints saying, "Look, why not? What do we have to work with here? Try a deep shot." So watch out for that on Sunday. I can certainly see it happening. You've seen this team go on the road and early on 10 a.m. slots, them kind of, I'm tired. The jet lag gets to them, and they get beat down deep. You're hoping that Upton Stout has a better game this Sunday. He wasn't great against Seattle, but hopefully he can improve his outing and kind of tighten things back up. Again, if you are, and if you watch that game against the Seahawks, they went at Upton Stout over and over and over again until he kind of tightened things back up and won a few reps. But if you're the Saints, you're doing the exact same thing. Rashid Shaheed in the slot, Chris Olave in the slot, and saying, look, we are going to target Upton Stout until he shows he can beat us. And if he can early, it changes everything, because the stats, the attempted throws, the spray chart for Spencer Rattler, his best graded throws, the place where he is the most efficient, the place where he feels the most comfortable throwing is, guess where? The best place for San Francisco's defense. Over the middle, intermediate, and deep. Who usually roams over the middle in the intermediate part of the field? That's right. All-Pro Fred Warner. I know Spencer Rattler feels like, I can throw the football there. I'm confident there. You do not throw the football near Fred Warner. If you do so, interceptions. In fact, I will go as far as to say Fred Warner will be the player to pick off Spencer Rattler in this game. The Saints do not have any true spectacular game-changing offensive players outside of Alvin Kamara. I'm going to tell you why. That despite Kamara being a game changer, one of the best active running backs in the entire league, he's a great receiver, great running back. I'm going to tell you why it may not matter on Sunday. The other question for San Francisco's defense is, outside of if you get to the quarterback, will it be the end of the Saints game? Is, will this run defense be able to replicate its performance in week 1 onto week 2? The Saints last week had 18 attempts for 78 yards on the ground from their running quarterbacks, their running backs, not the quarterbacks, the running backs. That is 4.3 yards a carry.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
However, on PFF, which isn't perfect, I know that, but it's a useful tool here, in week 1, and I'm not kidding here, the Saints were the worst run-blocking offensive line in the entire league. 32 of 32. And guess what the grade was? It wasn't mediocre, but towards the bottom end. No, it was a 37.4 grade. That is about 13 to 20 points below average for PFF. They were utterly terrible against, again, a mediocre at best Cardinals defense, which is young and doesn't really have the tools in place to be where San Francisco's defense should be. They don't have Nick Bosa. They don't have Bryce Huff and Fred Warner and a phenomenal Week 1 D Winters. They don't have those guys. They don't have Lenore and Renardo Green. They don't have those guys in place. San Francisco's run defense should not only be able to replicate a Week 1 performance this Sunday against the Saints, they should outdo it against the Saints. Better running back by far, Kenneth Walker to Charbonnet to Kamara, better this Sunday. But the Saints' offensive line cannot generate open lanes for their backs to run through. It'll take Rattler dump-offs and quick passes to Kamara to help facilitate the offense to open up stuff. And my hope is, and my belief is that in the flats, that is where San Francisco had one of their biggest improvements last Sunday in tackling. Last year, they couldn't tackle a freaking semi-truck if it was sitting there parked. They weren't getting hands on dudes. They were letting guys get by with arm tackles, and they were just letting dudes run through them. Against Seattle, a ton of run stops, a ton of great tackling. Rarely did you see any broken tackles from the Seahawks on Sunday. That should translate into a game against the Saints, who are a worse team, a worse run-blocking team, and a worse rushing attack on the ground. If you can do that, and here I think is, maybe on defense at least, one of the biggest takeaways from what I can find against this Saints offense. If you can stop the run, in which I believe San Francisco should be able to, that forces any quarterback, mind you, not just the Saints, into more third and longs. Hence why you drafted Collins and West and Micah Williams, who those guys weren't great against Seattle, although Williams was pretty good in run defense, in my opinion. You want to force opposing offenses into more third and longs, okay? The Saints last Sunday against the Cardinals averaged 6.8 yards to gain, nearly 7 yards to gain on third downs. That was the 21st ranked offense in yards to gain on third downs in the entire NFL. Once they got to third down, they were 5 for 14 on those third downs, 28%. The Niners can, will, and hopefully should be able to force this Saints offense into continual 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 8s. And once they get there, they have a nearly 75% chance of a success rate to stop this Saints offense. We have laid out the worries of the Niners offense this Sunday. Do you trust Mac Jones? Do you believe in the offensive weapons they have? Do you believe in the offensive line? Where there is hesitation there is the utmost confidence in San Francisco's defense to be able to hold this Saints offense at bay, to stop Kamara, to stop Olave, to stop Juwan Johnson with guys like Fred Warner, Lenore, Winters, this defensive line, Robert Saleh, to a point where even if this game comes down to a field goal, even if this game feels tight late, 10-10, 13-10, like it was against Seattle, I believe this defense should be able to play almost near perfect bend not break defense the entire time. The Saints do not possess the firepower to put up 20 points against this defense. They do not have the weaponry, the efficiency, and the skill set to put up over 24 points against a defense like this, let alone maybe even 17 points. San Francisco's defense, Robert Saleh's defense, I believe, back-to-back weeks will be the reason San Francisco wins this Sunday. And the main reason they are 2-0 to begin the year, which was not the storyline walking in to the season, but a gift from the football gods, the NFL scheduling gods of like, you beat Seattle, great, big win now, your guys are going to be out for a while. But here's the New Orleans Saints, albeit on the road, which is tough to win at. But here's a gift. And here's one more stat. I've kind of given you the good and the bad. Why there's reasons to worry and why there's reasons to be really confident in San Francisco this Sunday. The Niners released Jake Moody. They waived him during the week, I think on Monday or Tuesday. Thank God they did. And they signed a kicker, Eddy Pineiro. You want to know what Eddy Pineiro's stats are against the Saints? You want to know what Eddy Pineiro has done against the Saints, either at home with the Panthers or on the road in New Orleans? Listen to this here. Eddy Pineiro's career against the Saints. He is perfect for an 8 for 8 on extra points and is 16 for 17 on field goals, only missing one career field goal against the Saints. When he's at home for the Panthers in Carolina, 5 for 5 on extra points, 12 for 12 on field goals. On the road in New Orleans at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, he is 3 for 3 on extra points and 4 for 5 on field goals. He has missed one kick against the Saints while playing in the same division as them the last 3 or 4 seasons with the Panthers in his entire career. Now, maybe I'm jinxing him, and I'm hoping I'm not here. Maybe I am. If this game comes down to a field goal, it'll show why cutting Jake Moody was of the utmost importance to do so, and finding Pineiro, especially this week against the team he has kicked against multiple times in his career in a stadium. He has only missed one kick in his entire career. Matters. This is why myself and others were saying, you gotta find a way to cut Jake Moody. Now, we didn't think it'd be Pineiro. We didn't think that was the exact guy they'd go with. But right now, he may be, at least for this Sunday against New Orleans, the perfect guy to have without your starting quarterback, without your all-pro tight end, without maybe your 1, 2, and 4th best wide receivers on the roster. Now, San Francisco's special teams as a whole needs to be better. No holding calls from Jair Brown, no muffed punts by Sky Moore. Those were not back-breaking mistakes last week. They could become them this Sunday in a tight game, but if you make field goals, you make your extra points, this game becomes a heck of a lot easier. And I think Pineiro may have 3 field goals this Sunday. I am like that sure he will be a major part in how much this team scores on Sunday. I think San Francisco wins this game 20, maybe 23, but probably 20-10. I am that confident in this defense holding the Saints offense at bay. I am that confident that Pineiro makes 2-3 field goals in this game. And I'm also confident in the fact that even without Brock Purdy, without George Kittle, this offense can at least overcome for 1 week. Right now, you are on a week-to-week basis. Can you beat the Saints? If you beat the Saints, it does make losing a game against the Cardinals and against the Jaguars easier to swallow. You don't want to do it. I don't think they should have to, rely on that or kind of rest on that, but it's all about who's in front of you now. The future may not be so bright if your franchise quarterback misses time. However, if you can find a way to beat the Saints on Sunday, you're 2-0, you can figure out what happens in week 3 with your quarterback stuff, then beat the Saints 23 or 20-10, escape New Orleans, get back home. That stuff matters. Rest in your own bed for a week before game day. Have no travel at all. They're coming to you. It'll be a tough battle week 3, but right now, week 2, beat who's in front of you. Take care of business now. Business trip mentality, all gas, no brakes. Go in there and knock a really bad team down further. The Saints are one of the worst rosters in football, with maybe the worst defensive coordinator in football. Take care of business then, gain some confidence, get back home, and gear up for a big week 3 game against the Arizona Cardinals. San Francisco, in my opinion, wins 20-10. Drop your score predictions down below. Drop your confidence level in Mac Jones down below. And what do you think this Robert Saleh defense can do? I think Nick Bosa has about 2 sacks in this game. I think they wreak havoc on this Saints run defense. Drop your thoughts down below. Don't forget to follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram. 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. And use that promo code 49ersaccess at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. That is your week 2 preview. Niners win 20-10 over the New Orleans Saints. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave us that 5-star audio podcast review. And until next time, hopefully a Niner week 2 win over New Orleans. My name is Sterling Bennett, and stay faithful.